Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. I'm Justin Brady, and if you've been to the grocery store lately, you may have seen a new interesting trend. You may see THC beverages. So, you know, about vaping it, and you can do all sorts of things with THC. It's all the rage. But you may see beverages. And so I, of course, was at a local coffee shop, was instantly confused. And, you know, what better way to get to the bottom of this than just to invite the people who make it? So we have in the studio Dave Moore and Scott Selix. Dave is, of course, the CEO of Climbing Kites, and Scott Selix is the co-founder. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
We're going to... I must admit, I still grew up in the generation, I think you guys did too, where it was like illegal and taboo, and it was that shady guy on the street corner that we had to be, you know, he was the one who had the THC. That's very different. You know, the science, we figured out probably the science wasn't exactly correct back then. We've learned a lot. And I was in Daisy Chain in Des Moines East Village, and here are seltzers of Climbing Kites that have THC in them. And I was asking Dan, the owner of Daisy Chain, I'm like, wait, what? Wait, how is this a thing? Like, this is a thing now? So I wanted to get to the bottom of all this, the legality, how it works, how you do it. But first, can you just talk about the THC drinks? Is this like kind of a hot trend now? And, you know, thanks for coming, obviously.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And yeah, it is. There's not a ton of data yet because it's a relatively young market, but the data that's out there says it's the fastest growing beverage segment in the country. So it is growing very rapidly. It's certainly growing very rapidly in Iowa, and people are excited about it. It's a great alternative to alcohol. It fits right into how we conduct our lives every day. We go to a tailgate, or we go to a friend's party, or we're at the beach and you have a drink in your hand. And now instead of having an alcoholic drink, you can have a drink with a little bit of THC in it.
That's absolutely, it's still hard to wrap, I must confess, it's still hard to wrap my mind around it. So you guys are one of I think you are the biggest THC drink maker in the Midwest. Is that correct? You have you were telling me before we got started, you have first, second, and third slots.
We took the podium.
3 times. You took the whole podium.
Podium. To Scott's point, there's limited data out there in the sense of, if you look at non-alc, or you take beer, for example, there's a pretty concise database that's drawn from retail markets. UPCs, every time a UPC is scanned, right, that data goes out, and then there's companies that collect that and give that to, and then we can buy it. A brewery can buy it, figure out where they're at in the market, what's the trends, things like that. That's starting to come with THC beverage as more and more retailers are using it. That data is starting to pop up more and more. It's still a little young, but that said, we have of all the Midwest, the census United States Midwest. There's 12 states, I believe, and that includes Minnesota and a couple other states that were, I guess I would say, farther ahead than Iowa. We took we have 4 brands in the market, and 3 of those brands took 1, 2, and 3 in that data. So very excited.
Is it essentially like THC and CBD infused, like LaCroix, or some people LaCroix, depending on how you... Is that essentially...
That's the first time I've heard LaCroix.
I've been corrected. I don't know. We need a French person to tell us what's right. Well, I'll my French cousin.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I often explain it that way to people. It's like LaCroix with a buzz. So it's our particular... There's lots of types out there. Some of them are more like sodas that have THC infused in them. Some of them are more lemonade or tea. Ours, at least what we have on the market right now, is a lot like a LaCroix. I call it LaCroix with a kick. Calorie-free, vegan, sugar-free, gluten-free, carb-free, and then just a little bit of THC and CBD to, either take the edge off or help with pain, or a lot of different uses.
Okay, so people are using it to take the edge off, de-stress, pain management, just kind of the things we hear about medical marijuana. people are using it for the similar thing. Although you mentioned tailgating too, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I think it runs the gamut. You know, we of course can't make a lot of medical claims around it, but what we hear from other people and the reasons they're using it, I think probably still the number one reason people consume it is escapism and relaxation, just like with with alcoholic beverages or other consumables. But there's a lot of different reasons people choose to use it. Some of it is medical, some of it are medical conditions.
Yeah, I would just echo that. Yep, there's plenty of people who use it for they can't maybe drink with their medications or mentally or physically.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about that.
Mentally or physically, they don't handle alcohol well, whether it be like in a physical way or in a mental way. But they find this product very approachable and very much, they don't have the same issues that they have with alcohol. And this gives them a great alternative, like he was stating, in regards to escapism, to social parties and moments in your life where you're celebrating and you still want to escape with your friends who are drinking a beer, drinking wine, for example. And this gives you that route to do so. So
it's a non-alcoholic route to accomplish the same 100%. Thing as what people are looking at it as. So everyone thinks of, I mean, it's kind of in the name too, right? Climbing kites, like high as a kite. I mean, you're not really hiding it, right? So what is the experience like? If someone drinks one of these things, they just look like a can of Red Bull is kind of what they look like. If they drink one of these things, are they going to be flat on their face? Are they going to be, obviously it's going to depend on weight. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. But in general, what's the experience like? Are they loopy out of their mind after one? Is it just a super, super slight effect? What do people telling you the experience is like?
Yeah, it depends on the experience that they have with THC. That's probably the first one. If they have tons of experience with THC where maybe they smoke or they've got a lifestyle that's THC is used every single day, then it would be pretty rough for them to be on their face. You can get there eventually, I would say, but you're not going to get the way. We focus on low dose social tonics is kind of what we focus on. So these are ones you can have multiple of. Nobody's going to drink a Bud Light and think they're going to get drunk right away, right? Unless you're 83 pounds and you've never touched alcohol before in your life, you're probably not going to feel that beer.
Sure. Okay.
And then the same way as this way, we have 2.5 milligrams for us. That's our lowest dose, and that's pretty approachable for just about anybody, including those that maybe haven't touched THC or never touched THC or haven't for some time. This would be a great way to go into that space. And even then, we tell people if you're pretty new to it, drink half, take 20 minutes, and you'll have a pretty good idea where you stand within 20 minutes. And if it's getting a little too intense, then no worries at all. You don't have to finish it. If you're not really feeling much, you can go on to that next half. And we suggest that for anybody who's getting new into it. But it's the experience is much more on the relaxed side, much more on the kind of shoulder drop.
It's not so much about. And this is, you're going to find out, and all the listeners will find out very quickly how inexperienced I am at like marijuana and THC. And by inexperienced, I mean I've never had any of it ever in my life. Yeah. Some people are like, yeah, sure. But it's true. I haven't. Yeah. And so I get asked really stupid questions. So it's less of like you tripping out, like the room is moving thing, more of I can relax. Yeah. That's kind of the effect you're going for.
There's a moment if you drink too much of it, just like you would if you drink too much alcohol, where things start spinning a little bit, for alcohol, but I wouldn't say spinning for this product, but there's going to be a point where it might get intense for some. Obviously, everybody's going to affect differently. Everything's a bell curve when it comes, especially with this drink as well.
Right.
Where some are just going to find it, super pleasurable, easy drink. They're really relaxed. Some get a little, some use it for sleeping because it's, the CBD can maybe calm you down to a point where you can go to sleep. There is some that get energized with it, and everywhere in between, but
generally, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say for the most part, though, it's generally an even keel, nice buzz. It's excuse me. The big thing is for most of our customers is the next day, in the sense of they don't have the hangovers that they do with with alcohol. So it's a very pleasurable experience. It's very relaxed, but then it doesn't. If it's a Tuesday, that Wednesday doesn't come too harshly on you. So it's a big deal to our customers.
People probably are more familiar with like edibles than they are THC-infused beverages, just because it's newer. Mm-hmm. is a typical edible, I don't know if there's a range, but is a typical edible, because you mentioned 2.5 milligrams in one of these drinks, is a typical edible like 100? Is it two? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, that runs.
I'm sure it all ranges.
As well.
On it, yeah.
In general, edibles tend to start in the 5 milligram range. That would be a low edible, and I speak in general. There are some lower, but a typical edible dose is probably more like 20 to 30 milligrams. If you're going to a legal state, there are out there. There's 100 milligram edibles. There's 1,000 milligram edibles, which gets really really wild.
So that would be on your face after like one cookie.
I think for most people, yeah, 1,000 milligrams, of course, gets to a gram. Yeah, but we're definitely on the lower side, and we, like Dave said, we intend for it to be more like a Bud Light. You go to the bar and you have 2 or 3 or 4 and you're still okay. And that's generally what we strive. Now, we range from 2.5 milligrams up to 10 is our strongest dose. So 110 is like drinking 4 of the smaller ones. So it really depends on where you start and what your tolerance is. But these are designed to be tolerable, to have a couple, and really to be a socializing beverage if that's what you want it to be.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always get a little confused on, especially now, is whenever we get into the legality of it. And I've read your website. It's legal. It's state legal, federal legal, everything's fine. It's kind of what it says if I'm summing it up. But whenever you get into the new, it seems like there's a lot of nuance. So whenever we talk about THC and CBD and marijuana and cannabis and hemp, like all of a sudden, the conversation gets extremely science-y.
Yeah.
And I will say, I'm not an idiot, but I generally get lost when people are like, well, this is actually the root part of the plant, and this part is the stem, and this is legal, and that's not. And so when I went down to get it, to get my coffee from Daisy Chain, I was asking Dan about it, and he's like, yeah, but it's, the new bill, the governor signed the new bill. It allows us to sell it here, but you can't drink it inside here because of our license. You have to go somewhere else and drink it, and then you can come back or something. And so all this stuff, that's why I think there's still some people that maybe want to try it but don't. Because they're like, if I go grab this thing and I drink it off property, which sounds fishy enough as it is the DEA going to like track me down and say, hey, we're going to get you because of this special nuance thing, and you weren't actually turning in circles and patting your head when you drank it, therefore you're a felon. So can you walk us through, do you guys have like a marijuana farm out back? What's the difference in legality here? What's the CBD THC difference? Where are you getting, like, how are you getting your THC in there? Is it legal? All these things. Is there an easy way to explain this stuff?
Yeah, I think there is. There's a lot of misconceptions.
Is there an easier way to explain it than I just asked the question?
Certainly, and some of what you just explained is a misconception, right? It's not accurate, and what Dan said is not. But in 2018, when the federal government passed the Farm Bill, they just split the cannabis plant in two legally. If you have more than 0.3% THC in cannabis, it's marijuana. It's a Schedule I controlled substance still, although it's going to be classified to Schedule 3, but it's a Schedule I controlled substance and it's illegal. So more than 0.3% THC, it's marijuana, it's illegal. If you have less than 0.3% THC and that same plant, same compound, same everything, it's legally classified as hemp and it's legal. So you start with just a less potent plant. So we're extracting the same compounds out of hemp. So we start with hemp, we extract the compounds out of that. It is primarily delta-9 THC, which is the primary compound in marijuana that gives the effects of marijuana. So we extract that out of hemp, and you start with hemp, which is 0.3% THC, and if your final product is also 0.3% THC or less, then it's legal under the federal Farm Bill. Then it goes down to the state level, and states have passed varying degrees of laws and regulation around it. Iowa, it's legal now. Starting July 1, it'll be legal up to 10 milligrams. Right now, the limit's a little higher. But so as long as you start with hemp, you finish below now in Iowa 10 milligrams, it's legal, and you could legally drink it in daisy chain. You don't have to go outside. You don't have to pat your head and turn in circles.
Well, Dan needs to know that. He has no. You can just stop by.
I'm drinking a daisy chain coffee right now.
Go
so
tell
I'll
him.
walk back down after.
Hey, by the way, guys.
Actually, there's less regulation around this than other types of drinks. You can, like you said, you could go outside and drink it. That's certainly true. You can drink it on the licensed premises. Once you legally purchase it through a licensed retailer, you can drink it and it's legal. The one caveat we get asked a lot is, will this make me fail a drug test? And the answer is yes, because it is the cannabis plant that we're putting in there. So it shows up on a drug test, but it's the same compounds and it's very legal to drink once you've legally purchased it from a licensed retailer.
I've heard in very high doses, though, lemon poppy seed bread will come across in a drug test, too. People may think I'm making this up.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
I know.
Yeah.
This was like I don't know if they call it like a myth or something for years. And the Mythbusters, obsessed with that show,
I love
actually
that show,
did test it. And they're like, yeah, actually, if you eat a lot of, I don't remember how much they tested, but they said it's a lot less. We thought you'd have to eat like 20 loaves. It's a lot less to come on a drug.
Like a manageable amount of
I mean, you'd have to
bread.
eat a ridiculous amount, but they said, wow, we actually, and I think they tested like poppy seed bagels too. Like, you don't actually have to eat as much as we thought you did for it to pop on a drug test.
Can you imagine being an employer and your employee failed a drug test and came to you and said, no, I ate poppy seed bread.
I just had lemon poppy seed. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So do you have, like, is this a challenge then? Like, a lot of companies still do drug tests. So, and most people that are employed, at least in the state, are employed for probably an organization that does a drug test. So is this one of the bigger barriers that you guys have to overcome as a company then?
I think actually I would say it would be, but I would disagree with that. I think most companies now that do drug testing, they don't test for THC. Now, a big caveat there is don't listen to me. Look at your company's policy if you have a drug test. But most companies now are not testing for THC. There's a couple big exceptions. One is if you're a federal contractor, it's still required. So if you work for my mother-in-law works at Rockwell Collins in Decorah, and she's drug tested as a federal contractor. So for her, it's a big no. But most companies are not testing for THC these days.
Yeah, okay. And so what I'm hearing then is the difference, which is still weird to me, but I get it. This is probably the best explanation I've had in a long time. What I'm hearing is the big difference between calling it cannabis or calling it where marijuana is the percentage. So if it's under 3%, it's cannabis, or what you said, hemp. It's all cannabis.
0.3%.
0.3%.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. No worries.
0.3. I should put a big 0.3. The governor's listening. Make sure to. She actually is listening, I think. Under. Thank you. So under 0.3 is hemp. Over 0.3 is marijuana. This is why you're state legal, federally legal, all yada, yada, yada. That's why. So
that's it. Yep.
Under 0.3 is sell it at the coffee shop. And I saw some at Gateway Market. That's the first time I saw it, and I'm like, what? I saw THC on this label in the middle of Gateway Market. And I'm like, this is crazy. So the difference between Gateway Market and get your card and go into a dispensary is that magical 0.3 number. Now, does that apply federally and state then?
Yep.
Wow. Okay, that's
so
across the board.
Iowa's law
then
mimicked federal law. Now with this new legislation coming forward that'll be effective July 1, we're significantly more restrictive in Iowa, but our products remain legal. So yeah, that 0.3% is the magic number.
Got it. Okay. And now, if I'm reading between the lines here, there are some states that kind of override federal law and say, that's fine, federal government, that you said that, but there ain't no way it's happening here. This is kind of a thing?
Yeah. There's plenty of states that, well, plenty, but let's say most states have put some sort of regulation on it.
Sure.
Whether it be potency limit, whether it be age limit, things like that, which all things we were in favor of.
Sure. Okay.
And then there's a couple states that are looking at, banning it completely. But yeah, for the most part, I think there's 40 states or something like that. I think.
Yeah, 40 some states have
40.
Yeah, 40.
Times are a changing,
43.
folks. So is this?
Most of the states, though, that are looking at are the ones that have legal or recreational marijuana. That's the.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
the
these products might be illegal. I say might because it's a legal interpretation in California. They, of course, and you say, why is it illegal? Well, they have a large marijuana industry there that is opposed to it. But for the most part,
it's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, it is.
We're opposed to it, but just just out of state.
But we're
That's super funny.
It's most states are legal, and there's it's certainly would surprise you some states where it is legal.
Now, is this also an age thing? Because alcohol, 21 to buy it. Is this the same principle?
It will
applies?
be not at the federal level. That was
really
not miss on their part. Now in the state of Iowa.
So at the federal level, just if the federal, which they don't set laws for everybody. You know, states' rights, blah 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 blah. But if the federal was determining the laws, you could have like 12-year-olds buying this legally.
Legally, ethically,
technically, yeah.
Ethically, no, but legally,
yeah.
yeah. So the states,
the expectation is that this year's farm bill will have the addition of the 21 in there.
And Iowa's law has that, and we put it on
right.
cans. But at least in theory, yeah. And that was one of the once you start opening an industry, you realize all of the regulations you need,
right?
And so that's
so Iowa's laws say 21. Sorry. No 12-year-olds.
They will now. Yeah, they will on July 1st.
They will?
Yeah.
So technically right now, under like 16-year-olds could go buy it. But I mean, if a retailer is willing to sell it to them.
Exactly. And our relationships with our retailers was that it's 21 and above.
Oh, so you set that rule on
we
people.
we self-imposed since day one.
Yeah, if you sell it to a single person under 21, you're not going to buy it from us anymore.
Got it.
No one has even talked about doing that. I think the industry is very responsible. Part of it is because we recognize we're a new industry that a lot of people question and are saying, can we trust it? And we've got to build that trust. So,
and one bad headline can, at this point, for a lot of these companies are very, very young, and one bad headline can essentially end the entire company's existence.
Right,
so there's a lot of pressure to get it right, which makes sense why you'd say to these retailers, hey, this is our rule. You go against the rules, you're done.
Correct.
And fortunately, we supported regulation to make it 21 plus. That's a very short-lived loophole in Iowa right now. As of July 1st, it'll be 21 plus, just like everything else, which is what it needs to be.
If you were ever distributing to I don't even know if this rule's still a thing, but if you're ever distributing to Great Britain or something, I think their drinking age is 18. So would you basically say whatever the local laws are on alcohol consumptions to a degree will follow the local law? Is that kind of where you're at right now? I'm throwing every question at you.
I think so. Marijuana is certainly more legal in the U.S. than in lots of countries. I haven't looked.
Especially hemp.
Yeah, I think marijuana is still illegal in Great Britain. I don't think there's this hemp bifurcation. So, but in general, yeah, we would. I think Canada, I believe, is 18 too, and these products are illegal there. But if they were legal, I think we would probably look at 18, but that's a hypothetical. I really don't know.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of laws then across the board changing very rapidly, right? Because
100%.
I was just, my life insurance policy just expired. So I was doing a new one. I was going through a broker and I was asking, because I do kind of want to try this, right? I want to try it. I'll be honest.
It's easy. Just go drink one.
Yeah.
It's easy.
And so I was talking to my life insurance broker and I'm like, look, I want to get a good rate, and I know they're going to do a health evaluation, although they don't really do as much of that anmore, which is kind of weird, and that seems odd to me. But I kind of wanted them to because I, am in pretty good health. So I was like, mine's going to be like $10 a month. They didn't want to. But I was asking her, I was like, now where do you all stand, all these companies, on marijuana? Because it's freaking everywhere now. It's federally legal. It's state legal. Tons of states are just straight up recreational legal. I imagine if life insurance policies don't adapt, they're kind of going to be not making any money. She's like, oh, yeah, you're right. They already adapted. So a lot of policies, she was saying, are they only start to care and want to ask you more questions if you're consuming more than one marijuana product a week. And I was like, one a week? That is a big stretch from never at all to, one a week is fine. Now, if they go over one a week, she said they have more questions. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They just want to know, what's your use? What are you doing with it? But one a freaking week. We have come a long way in a very, very short amount of time. Are you seeing any other regulations or laws rapidly changing outside of just general enforcement and insurance policies?
No, I think for us, in the sense of, especially coming into this session, was the hope for more regulations. So things like banking, like finance, like insurance, those companies would feel more at ease with this product. And so it's easier for us to grow our business. And that's what we're trying to do is grow the business. It's hard to do so if you can't get the financing or anything else.
That's a good point.
Thankfully, we've been very fortunate with our banking partners in finance, but insurance is still a thing that sits out there. And And there's some they're doing it now. Dram Shop, right, is insurance that we use for alcohol. We both come from breweries, and so there's another version of that Gram Shop insurance, they call it. But basically, there's just different versions to protect the business owner in case somebody overindulges. And so it's very expensive now, but we expect as regulation comes in, it's more familiar, more people are using it. And there's some framework around what's required, by the state in regards to insurance coverage. That's only going to help that business, and that's going to help that flourish, and it's going to bring down costs, and it's going to make things easier for our customers, and our customers being retail partners. And so it's very exciting in that sense. And we like I said, going into the session, we were looking for some of those things like 21 and above, and giving state agencies some teeth so they could go after bad actors.
I want to go back to his previous point, though. I mean, I think you're right. Where you got at there was that Americans really like THC, and that's what we're seeing. So it's a train that's on the tracks, and it's moving, and it's not getting pushed off the tracks. It may get slowed down a little bit with regulation, but Americans want THC, and they want to be able to consume it, whether it's for recreation or for medicinal use. And it's coming. So
I've even seen, you would maybe just across, and I'm not going to ask you guys about politics, don't worry, but just across the political spectrum, I would say traditionally maybe a more conservative audience was more opposed to it. But I think I see that even rapidly changing.
For sure.
And I see, people in that strictly conservative camp that are like, no, it shouldn't be, the libertarian audience has kind of been there for a while.
Absolutely.
But I'm seeing a lot of unification across the political spectrum on this. And even from I have a Bible major, for those that don't know. It's like surprising to some people because I don't really use it professionally. But I've often and I don't want to tick anybody off, and and I guess every Bible major has been a heretic at least once in their life. But I've often kind of thought is God looking at us and, my gosh, my life is so stressed right now and I don't know what to do and blah, 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 which is extremely damaging for your health. High amounts of stress are very damaging. I'm not a medical expert. I'm not anything. I'm not a science person. But I've often kind of wondered if he's up there saying, guys, I kind of gave you a plant. It freaking grows in the ground. It grows in the ground, guys. It's not that expensive. And you made it illegal.
It's a weed.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to do with you. I've often wondered, is he having that conversation up there? Is he kind of looking at how ridiculous we've become? Now, obviously, like anything else, I'm staunchly against abuse of anything. You can abuse sugar. You can abuse smoking.
Yes.
You can abuse everything. I'm very against
Correct.
that. So, this is definitely a conversation, about responsibility. But I want to go back really briefly, and then I also want to ask about kind of operations in the zero proof movement. But I'm just real quick, yes or no. I'm assuming right now it's easier to work with banks. You kind of indicated that because for a while there, FDIC insured meant no marijuana money, and that's done.
Correct. Yeah, okay. And this was a hemp site, so it was much easier.
Sure. Good
much
point.
easier. So at the federal level, because of the Farm Bill, it was.
So last question, well, maybe two, we can squeeze them in, but is the zero proof movement, like a lot of younger kids just turning 21 are really opposed to alcohol? It used to be college and even high schoolers were trying to get drinks. And now a lot of college students that turn 21, they're like, yeah, no thanks. They've seen how many lives it's destroyed. They don't like how it feels. And there's this enormous movement. Are you benefiting from that movement?
Well, I think it's a benefit, but it was also why we got into it. We both own breweries. I own Lua, and Dave is an owner of Big Grove, so two of the more prominent breweries in Iowa, and we saw it in our tap rooms, people coming in. Really? I saw it with some of our employees. People work in a brewery tap room and they choose not to drink, and in a lot of ways, it's a really, really good decision for a lot of people.
Right.
But they still want that escapism. So yeah, the zero proof movement, it's very real, and it certainly impacts this segment a lot. We were looking for an option to give to those people, whether they wanted to come into Lewis Tap Room or they wanted an option at home or at a tailgate or whatever, that they could have the same sort of escapism and experience that alcohol might provide to others, but that THC could provide to them. So it's a big factor. It grows every year. I think it's a health conscious movement, and it's scary when you're in craft beer and you see that, but certainly, it's the right decision for a lot of people, and this is a good alternative for them. Yeah.
Yeah. The one way it was kind of phrased to me was, I guess when we were 21, drinking alcohol, we didn't really measure our consumption for alcohol. And THC was pretty measured in the sense of what you're doing.
Interesting.
Where now it's very much switched, where THC isn't really measured as to what they do or if it's every day or what have you. But alcohol definitely is measured in the sense of very deliberate. I mentioned this before, but this generation will be the least alcohol-consuming generation until the one that follows it.
Really? It's still trending downward?
Yeah, still trending down.
Wow.
But that said, I mean, our number one age demographic is 35 to 50. And so that's been our wheelhouse. So
I saw a stat in an Associated Press article yesterday, and it was for the first time in history, more people are daily users of marijuana than are daily users of alcohol.
What?
There are more daily users of,
and this was when?
THC. And I read it yesterday in an Associated Press article referencing a study that had been done. So I think there's no calories. Alcohol, I think it can have worse effects on people. The hangover, it's just a healthier alternative in a lot of people's minds. And so they gravitate towards it and they view it as a healthy lifestyle option.
I really appreciate both of you coming in here. Dave Moore and Scott Selix of Climbing Kites. You're pushing into Tennessee soon. Congratulations on that. And of course, can we talk can I announce that obviously the Ragbri partnership, but also the Hinterland partnership is coming?
Yeah, we're very excited to partner with for both those events. Big Grove has been involved with Ragbri for 5 years now. Hinterland is a new endeavor for sure, and Scott has a good relationship there, and they're very excited to bring us on. We're excited to be part of their experience. Again, making it normal, making it feel, having this product in those moments where people are celebrating, seeing shows, riding bikes. People are pretty excited for the Ragbri, for example, in the sense of by day 2 or 3, maybe alcohol is a little rough if it's 95 degrees, and it's, to my understanding, this will be the hilliest or steepest Ragbri ever.
Oh, interesting.
That they're pretty fascinated about the idea of having a non-alcoholic option that would still again provide a little escapism, maybe help a little bit with those muscles the next morning, and not feel so terrible. So no, we're very the excitement is on both sides for both Ragbri and Climbing Kites for sure.
Absolutely. So people listening, they want to buy it, they're excited, they want to try it out. What's the most direct path to find it?
I would say the easiest way, if you go to our website, climbingkites.com, we have a store locator, and then you can find out where you are there. If there's not a retail location near you, we have ability to ship it directly to you. So we can do it both ways there. But it's getting easier and easier to find, both on and off premise. It's getting easier and easier to find. And
of course, I should say congratulations for getting distribution in Molson Coors and Anheuser-Busch as well. First THC beverage company to do that, I think.
Do both, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so we're very excited to see that come down the pipe, and we got Wisconsin. We'll probably be within 10 or 11 states here by the end of the year for sure.
So, all out of Iowa.
All out of Iowa. There's really not a really leading contender right now for a national brand, and as for sales,
going for the national sweep, I think. Right.
It would be. It would take a lot of work, but it's still in play. We don't. When we started Lua and Big Grove, right, there was always Sierra Nevada. There was plenty of big shooters that we were chasing after. We don't have those big national players yet, so it's exciting for us even to take a shot at it.
Yeah.
And
wow, we're still Iowans, though.
We're still Iowans.
We love you, Iowa.
Yeah.
We'll never go anywhere.
Still need you.
If you're doing national distribution from Iowa right here, we're all for it. Bring everyone's money into this state, please.
I can tell you the tax bills that we're getting are hefty these days. So there's a lot of out-of-state revenue coming in. Yeah,
you're welcome. Dave Moore and Scott Selix of Climbing Kites, thank you so much for coming on the Iowa podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.